أناجي الحق في ليل بهيم أصدق النجوى وأدعو الله من قلب سليم يطلب التقوى أناجي الحق في ليل بهيم أصدق النجوى وأدعو الله من قلب سليم يطلب التقوى.
Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh. Ahlan wa sahlan wa marhaban bikum, and welcome to another edition of Perspective. My name is Faizel Patel. We've already had a gadget-filled year, more than we can handle. We made our wide-ranging predictions for 2015, last year ending in what can only be described as a calamitous pre-festive season, call for harmony, union, and less invasive gadgets. But we are coming to the end of 2015 now, and it's time to get serious. We want devices, shiny new toys to hold in our hands and sparkle in our pockets. And we want them now, or soonish, you know, whenever, whatever. What can we expect this festive season as far as gadgets are concerned? What about 2016? I'm excited and I'm looking forward to what the future has to offer. Now, to tell us more, in studio this evening we have Anastasiou, the host of the tech show Technolyte at 702 and Tech Busters on CNBC Africa. Aki, assalamu alaikum and welcome to Perspective.
Wa alaikum salam. Thank you for having me.
Absolutely, it's nice to have you on the show. We're also colleagues at 702, so yeah.
Yeah, absolutely. We see each other quite often, and I must tell you that whenever we see each other in the studio, we just talk about gadgets all the time. So Faizel's a big gadget man, and I quite enjoy talking gadgets with you. But yeah, it's been an interesting year.
Aki, 2015 has been an amazing gadget year, as you mentioned. What are some of the major gadgets and products that have been launched and made an impact this year?
Well, I think that firstly, smartwatches. We've seen like the next generation of smartwatches. They started appearing, you know, a few years ago, but I think the market is slowly starting to mature. Yes. So we're seeing second generation Samsung devices. We saw the launch of the Apple Watch this year. We also saw that, like, you know, in terms of phones, Faizel. Yeah, I mean, let's be honest. I mean, it's all been very incremental. The phones. There's nothing like, oh wow, it's been quite amazing. But where we've seen the real growth in technology is with all of these devices being connected, the Internet of Things that we're hearing about, and a tremendous amount of technological innovation that is happening in the world of automotives and cars. Yes. And I think that's really interesting. And also on the camera, I think the camera has improved significantly on your phone. But certainly in the automotive industry, it's been quite astonishing to see the growth in that particular industry this year.
Okay. Now, we've seen, like you mentioned, many new mobile phones launched this year, including the Samsung Galaxy S6 Edge, the iPhone 6s and 6 Plus just a few weeks ago, the Sony Xperia with the first 4K screen. The screens have become bigger, the phone's heavier, more powerful. Is there a need for a computer now?
Well, this is the thing, you know, there actually isn't a need. I mean, that device that you're holding in your hand is already the computer, and that's going to be the computer going forward. And you know, it's been quite interesting this year that we've really seen the size of the phone, because you mentioned the size of the phone earlier. And when you look at the phablet size as 5 inches and above, like the Note, for example, and the S6 Plus that the iPhone 6 Plus that Apple launched, and certainly that segment of the market is growing at a tremendous pace. In fact, out of every batch of smartphones that are sold, a third of them are actually phablet devices. Yes. And this is now impacting the tablet market as well, because now we're seeing tablet sales starting to taper off, and people are starting to settle towards that size of device, which is around about 5 inch, which is big enough to do work, and it's big enough to use as a smartphone. And you know, it really strikes you. I don't know when was the last time you picked up an old iPhone, for example, or that size device, and you put it in your hand and you go, oh my gosh, you know, I can't believe that I actually used such a small phone to type in. You know, you get used to the size, and I think that the size has been quite interesting. But you also touched on the screen resolution and the Sony Xperia 5Z, which is an astonishing phone, incredible quality, and even the Sony, Samsung Note, for example, and the Samsung S6. And you're certainly seeing that the screen quality is quite amazing. It's really crisp and clear. But listen, between you're paying for that, eh? And you know, there's a premium on that phone size. And yeah, it's a very, very desired market segment, isn't it?
Yes, absolutely. Now, there is a battle by mobile phone companies to make an impact on the smartphone market. We know there is a fierce battle between Apple and Samsung. Will this competition drive these tech giants to make even better phones? And what are some of the new features? I mean, we're seeing the 3D touch on the iPhone. We're seeing the Samsung screen that goes to the edge. I mean, because of this constant battle, and at the moment I think it's between Apple and Samsung, what can we see in future mobile phones?
Well, what you're going to see, it's actually, you know what's interesting? We're getting to a point on the smartphone where it's no longer about the hardware. The hardware isn't important. You know, we got the Snapdragon processors, and you got enough power, you got, you know, great cameras that take fantastic photographs, but it's actually no longer about the hardware. The hardware is the insignificant part, and that's not where the innovation is taking place. It's all about the software, and what the software is going to enable you as a user to do at the end of the day. So the growth has been very incremental in that segment of the market. But having said that, there are tremendous shifts taking place in that smartphone market. And you mentioned two brands like Samsung and Apple, for example, who are fighting it out for the high end. But I think where the fight is going to be, and remember that segment of the market, it's a very small part of the global market. You know, not everybody can afford a high-end device like that. So the big fight is taking place in the lowest segment of the market. And there you're going to have companies like Xiaomi from China, which, by the way, is, you know, I think they're number one in China at the moment, and it's significant. And if you have a look at their devices and their technologies, the quality and the value that you're getting on the phone, you know, users on our side, you'd say, hang on a second, why am I paying so much for a device where I'm getting such great value on another device? And that segment of the market is going to be the one that's really going to shake up the market and really going to attract a lot of consumer attention.
Okay. Coming on to one significant moment this particular year, October 21st, 2015, was also a significant day this year. It was the year that Marty McFly went back to the future. I mean, I've been watching that movie since a kid. We saw a lot of cool stuff: flying cars, the hoverboard, power laces on the night techies, self-drying jackets, and many other stuff. With all those things we've seen in that movie, specifically Back to the Future 2, how many of those have actually become a reality today?
Well, most of them. I mean, it's astonishing to think that the things that we thought about and the predictions that some futurists made even 30 years ago are now starting to become reality. And it's the exponential growth of computing power that we have today. And you're quite right. A lot of that stuff in Back to the Future, you look at it and say, no ways, did they predict that? And when you look at the stuff that they're doing on Star Trek, okay, and you look at the tricorder, for example, and we're going to touch on that because I think that's going to be explosive next year, is that kind of technology and the impact that it's going to have on healthcare, that you had that kind of thing predicted towards the end of the 60s, that is now going to become reality. And it's the exponential growth of the Moore's law and the power of processing power on a computer. That's what's really enabling all of that power around us to be able to do these things.
With regards to movies, and I just want to touch a little bit on the James Bond movie Spectre.
Yes.
You know, in the old Bond movies with Roger Moore and Sean Connery and even, Pierce Brosnan, we've seen a number of gadgets. But now they have moved away now from that. Are you disappointed? I mean, I'm disappointed with it.
Yeah, I am disappointed, and I would expect them to see more gadgets. But I think that they've got to a point, which is the interesting point, is that that technology has moved at such a pace that you could have that exponential growth in terms of the gadgets that you could have come up with. And from now on, it really moves to super futuristic stuff, and that's why it's very difficult for them to use those kind of gadgets to predict in the next 3 years that they're going to become a reality, just simply because of the pace at which technology is moving. And I think it's outpaced even the Bond movies, and that's why, and I think that advertising has crept into this as well, Faizel, and you've got the Sonys of the world advertising in there and doing a lot of product placements, and I think, unfortunately, advertising and promo has had an impact on that particular film industry.
Of course. Now, we know that Apple is, Apple, when they launch products, they launch a myriad of products one time. They launched the iPad Pro. It's bigger than the current iPad. It's massive. Tablets have become prominent. We use it in our field as journalists quite often. You see a lot of people carrying them around in malls. We use it in a lot of our profession as journalists, I mentioned. Do you think that the tablet will eventually replace the laptop itself? I mean, Stephen Groot has mentioned once that the tablet is the journalist's best friend. But, I mean, will it eventually replace a laptop like a MacBook or a normal computer?
You know, it's a great question, and I don't know about you, but I've used both, and I've tried to, you know, use just a tablet solely and attach a keyboard to it, but I'm still stuck in the form factor of a notebook, and I love that. Because you're able to do a lot more, and you're able to have more control of the conversation that you're typing out. I think where significantly the real tipping point is going to happen is when voice recognition gets close enough to really identify what you're saying to like 99% accuracy, and we already have it now pretty accurate. If you try and dictate to your phone, for example, that conversation is pretty accurate. But I still think we're a way away, and they haven't kind of figured out, you know, even hand gestures to be able to identify what you want to do on your device, because that's going to impact the fingers as well. If you can wear a band around your arm, that will be able to predict the movements that you're doing on your hand, and that's coming. They're working on that kind of stuff. But the physical keyboard is still something that perhaps it's a mindset. I see you like me. I'm using a MacBook, a 12-inch MacBook right now, and I love the form factor. I love the fact that it's small and it's portable and it's big enough for me. I still use a tablet, but the phablet that I'm using is making me use my tablet less, which I've found quite interesting in my behavior this year.
Okay. This evening we're speaking to Aki Anastasiou, and we're speaking gadgets, what we can expect in 2016 and what we've seen in 2015. We're going to go for a break, and after the break, inshallah, we're going to be speaking and continue speaking to Aki and then see what the future holds. Maybe there's another Back to the Future movie as well. You never know. Stay tuned to Perspective.
إلهي صرت في ظرف عصيب فاكشف البلوى فيا ربي أنا.
Welcome back to Perspective. My name is Faizel Patel. Tonight we are speaking gadgets for 2015 and 2016. And in studio with me we have Aki Anastasiou. Before the break we were speaking about tablets and iPads and new iPhones. It's just been you know, a myriad of devices and gadgets has been launched in 2015, and we're trying to figure out, you know, where to blow all that bucks, Aki.
Yeah.
But coming on to gadgets again, and you were mentioning at the beginning of the program, smartwatches. You know, smartwatches are now widely available in the market. Apple has just launched the Apple Watch. You have the Samsung Gear Live, the LG G Watch, and many others. Will people ditch their Rolex for a smartwatch, or me, my Omega, for a smartwatch?
Well, look, you know, I've been using this one here. This is the Apple. This is the Apple smartwatch, as you can see in the screen, and it's a magnificent device. It's a great piece of technology that's beautifully designed. And Apple have been very clever, because if you've seen, they've gone with designers like Hermes. They've gone with Burberry. They've got people on that nature, on that level, helping them design the watches, and they're making it a very desirable piece of fashion to wear. And it's a really nice watch to wear, and you know, you get complimented about the watch as you wear it. And I think that's where it's going, because it's becoming a fashion accessory. And that's where Apple has been very, very clever with how they've launched this device, with the fact that you can add additional straps and you can really personalize it to suit your own personal taste. Whether your question was, are we going to ditch our phones and start using these?
I like an analog watch. I mean, I love my Omega watches. I mean, what will entice me to say, you know what, put an Omega away, let me get an Apple Watch?
I tell you where I've really found the functionality with these smartwatches is the fact that I don't have to take my phone out of my pocket every time I need to use it. So if you want to look at your notifications on this, for example, if you want to use Uber, if you want to use your maps, you don't have to physically take out your phone. So it's an extension of your phone, and you can control quite a few things from this alone. And I think that it's going to be interesting to see the kind of software that comes with this, and eventually that, you know, the role that this is going to play on your health, because you're going to be able to monitor your health. Healthcare is going to be the next big thing in technology, and this little device is going to play a pivotal role in that.
Yes.
Aside from what it's already doing right now, because the moment you have your heart sensors being read, you can perhaps read your blood pressure, you can read things through your skin, all done by the sensors that clever companies are developing around the world, and that's where the game changer is going to be, Faizel.
So would it better than to wear one watch on on each end?
Well, maybe get a more accurate reading, I suppose. But you know, the way the medical technology is going and the way medical field is going, we were touching on this earlier. And at the beginning of next year, the tricorder, the X prize for the tricorder is going to be announced.
Yes.
And for me, folks, this is going to be one of the most exciting things and one of the biggest technological breakthroughs that we will see in 2016. And essentially what the X Prize is, they're giving $10 million to whoever can replicate the tricorder that was used by Mr. Spock in Star Trek. You know, when you came out of the spaceship, they scanned you, and then, you know, your vital medical stats appeared on there. So there are now six companies that are finalists for this prize, and they're going to announce the winner at the end of 2016, beginning of 2016. And, you know, for me, I personally think that there's a company called Scanadu, spelled S-C-A-N-A-D-U, the Scanadu Scout. Do yourself a favor and Google it and see what this device can do, because it's a round device like this. You hold it against your temple, and in 10 seconds on your smartphone device, you're going to get your vital stats, like your blood pressure, your oxygenation levels, your heart rate, your body temperature. Now, all of those things are very important indicators to determine your state of health and what's wrong with you. Now, the moment you start using a process of elimination like your doctor does, do you have a cough, do you have a headache, and they use that to diagnose you, then it becomes a lot more powerful. And as human beings, we are going to have these kind of devices, perhaps linked to this or something like that, and you're going to check on your health as often as you check your email. And that's a game changer.
Absolutely, and it obviously keep you more healthy as well.
Yeah, absolutely.
Okay. Now, let's speak on to apps. I mean, we've got the smartphones, whether it's an Apple or Samsung or even the lower end one. Apps is actually what makes a phone a powerful device.
Yes.
There are literally thousands of apps on the App Store, on the Android market. What are some of the must-have apps on your phone, whether you are an Apple fan or an Android fan?
Well, for me, there have to be a few games as well. And there's a couple of games that I enjoy. I enjoy playing Pac-Man, believe it or not. Interesting enough, I'm a bit of a retro style. Jenga is the one game that you pull those pieces of wood out. And, it's quite a nice game. And then from a travel perspective, I love an app called TripIt. I don't know if you've ever used TripIt. So if you travel, and even if you don't travel a lot, if you're a business person, what this app does is it collates your travel itinerary in one. So as soon as you get an airline ticket, or you get your holiday accommodation, or a train ticket, or car hire, it pulls all of that information onto the app. And it says, this is your trip, you're going to Cape Town, this is your air ticket, and all that kind of thing. And it really puts all of your travel arrangements into one. And that's what I love about TripIt.
It's TripIt. How do you spell it?
TripIt, T-R-I-P-I-T.
And it's available for iOS?
It's iOS, it's on Android, and you know, there's a paid version and there's a non-paid version, but the non-paid version, the free version, is fantastic. And what else do I use? I use a lot of the email programs. I love Outlook because it really does email really nicely and in a clever way. And of course, you know, the storage of information is important. So, you know, things like Dropbox, you know, Windows OneDrive, I use those two quite a bit to store stuff offline. Now,
another obviously a gadget that I think we haven't touched on yet is TVs. We've seen the market again flooded with a myriad of models and features. We had the 3D TV, which was quite amazing. You're seeing the curved one from Samsung and LG, UHD TVs, going into hundreds of thousands of rands. If viewers are in the market for a new TV, I mean, what should they be looking for? If you walk into a shop and you say, you know what, listen, I want a TV, what are the features that you should be looking for?
Well, firstly, you know, the TVs have been a huge draw card. I go to the Consumer Electronics Show in Las Vegas every year. It's happening now next month, first week of January. And TVs play such a prominent role. And we've seen that's where HD TVs got launched. You know, they were quite thick initially and they become thinner. So the size is incredibly thin. The secret to buying a TV, and I tell people, is buy the best TV that you can afford to buy. But if you can afford to buy really good quality, you know, look for 4K. I think 4K is going to be the de facto standard when it comes to TV. Not that we have enough content right now, because it's going to come, but 4K is going to be the standard. Curved TVs, you know, the jury's still out on that. Personally, I believe you get quite an immersive experience in them. 3D is standard on all of these TVs now. But really, I've kind of settled on the sweet spot of a 55-inch TV. So the size of 55-inch is important. The pixel density, 4K TV, and really the reputable brands like, for example, LG, Samsung, they're making good stuff, Sony as well. And even, you know, the other guys that are, you know, developing, you know, some of the Chinese brands that are coming to the market, they're also pretty good TVs as well. But certainly 4K is where you're going to settle in on.
All right. And Aki, we just got a few minutes left. Yes. We had a bumper 2015 with a myriad of products as far as gadgets are concerned. What can we expect in 2016 and having people blow their wads of cash for what's to come?
What I think you're going to have in 2016 is that wearable technology is going to explode. So you're going to have a lot of devices like this, second and third generation smartwatches that are going to be able to do a lot more than just what they do right now. Then you're going to see medical devices, like I mentioned with the Scanadu Scout. And that is really going to revolutionize the face of healthcare and how we interact with our doctors. That's number two. Number three, the motoring industry is already growing at an incredible pace. You've heard about the things like driverless cars. I think we're still away from driverless cars in the next 15 years, but cars that will have semi-autonomous driving features. For example, that you'll be able to get on a highway with the new high-end BMWs, for example, and take your hands off the steering wheel, and the sensors will be able to, you know, guide you through the road. So that's where you're going to see tremendous amount of changes. And streaming content. You know, we're seeing this move from traditional television happening to streaming content, and you've heard of the extra screen, etc. So really, I think next year is going to be the year of the wearable technology and the medical technology. Faisal, I cannot tell you how excited I am about that, because it's going to change things.
Absolutely. Aki, it's been an absolute pleasure to have you on the show, and thank you for
I left one more.
Oh, okay.
The Internet of Things. Let's not forget about the Internet of Things, because as we have all of these devices, we're connecting these devices, and by the end of this decade, if you can imagine that your phone, your computer is connected to the Internet, imagine everything around us connected, sharing information, and that analyzing that into big data. That's the Internet of Things, and it's an industry that's worth billions of dollars. That's exciting for me as well. Sorry to interrupt you.
No, absolutely. So let's thank you for sharing that information with us. It's an absolute pleasure to have you on the show, and I understand that you are going to Las Vegas, so have a safe trip then.
Yeah, thank you very much.
And keep us abreast of the things that are happening at CES.
Well, if anything exciting comes up, you'll be the first to hear about it, because I share all my gadget news with this guy at work. We talk lots and lots about gadgets.
Thank you, Aki. It's an absolute pleasure to have you. That was Aki Anastasiou. We're speaking about gadgets that got launched in 2015, the iPhones and Samsungs and tablets, and what we can expect in 2016 as well. Remember, you can keep in touch with Aki on his Twitter handle at Aki Anastasiou. And remember, you can interact with me also by sending me a tweet on @Faizi143, a comment on facebook.com/Faizel Patel, or even mail me on Faizel@itvnetworks.tv. Unfortunately, we've come to the end of this week's edition of Perspective. You can join me again next week when we cover stories that are making local, national and international headlines. From myself, Faizel Patel, and Aki Anastasiou, fi amanillah. Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh.
أناجي الحق في ليل بهيم أصدق النجوى وأدعو الله من قلب سليم يطلب التقوى أناجي الحق في ليل بهيم أصدق النجوى وأدعو الله من قلب سليم يطلب التقوى إلهي صرت في ظرف عصيب فاكشف البلوى فيا ربي أنا عبد لرد الضيم لا يقوى أعني ربي في أمر